Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 25th day of July 2022. Hey, it's a glorious day out here in Brisbane, 13 degrees and sunny. Good to see the temperature hit a few more degrees up, and this is probably quite comfortable at the moment because we have all been coming out of this, such extreme cold weather that now even a few degrees up feels much better. Normally we'd be complaining at about 13 degrees. All right, it's going to be sunny for the day and it's looking very, very glorious out the window here. Well, today we have our daily news update and then we have our daily India report. And time permitting, we'll take a look at some of the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. Well, right now, let's go to our news for today. Well, the first one, the Parliament is set to resume.
More than 2 months after the federal election, MPs are returning to Canberra. Circumstances changed.
These things go around. It's part of the election cycle.
This is the decision of the Australian people, and we look forward to holding the government to account.
Thank you so much.
Liberals and Nationals having to get used to opposition.
Got a lot of work to get on with now.
The Labor Prime Minister throwing open his new digs for a family day for colleagues at the Lodge.
I intend to not waste a day.
Since becoming Prime Minister, Mr Albanese set a hectic pace on the international stage, but he acknowledges there's a lot of work to be done on the domestic front.
My government has hit the ground running.
Labor to introduce 18 pieces of legislation in the first week, including a higher emissions reduction target, aged care reforms, a new jobs and skills body, and 10 days paid domestic and family violence leave. But some change is coming by ministerial edict. The Workplace Relations Minister to gut the powers of the construction watchdog even before its eventual abolition, such as its oversight of what flags and union insignia can be seen on building sites.
Those sorts of issues should never have been something for an official government regulator to be wasting taxpayers' money on.
Labor Party are bending to the will of the CFMMEU and their union paymasters.
The unions are now running the show, and that means they're going to want more and you're going to pay more.
The 47th Parliament opens on Tuesday, but events on the last day of the coalition government remain of focus.
It was a disgraceful event.
Anthony Albanese condemning the Scott Morrison-led coalition for pressuring public officials to release news of an asylum seeker boat arrival when many Australians were casting their vote.
Opportunistic, it was unprincipled, it was unprecedented, and it shouldn't have happened.
It's on the economy that expectations of the Albanese government are greatest. Labor came to power lamenting years of stagnant wages and promising cost of living relief. But with inflation expected to outflank wage growth well into next year and an immense challenge balancing the books, the political risk for the government is that it begins to look impotent in the face of global or uncontrollable forces. Andrew Probyn, ABC News.
And of course, there are forces beyond the control, and when a new government comes in, they're always up and eager to, get things going, deliver on some of the key election promises, and save face and make ground. So that's what's happening out there. Well, right now, let's go to Western Australia.
A familiar face in a new role.
Thanks for coming in today, and it's also, as you know, my first media conference as Police Commissioner.
Blanche keen to get straight down to business.
Last week, over 20 kilograms of methamphetamine has been seized by those seeking to bring it in from other states, and over $500,000 worth of cash and gold bullion has been taken out of the pockets of those seeking to traffic drugs in our state.
The drugs discovered inside sophisticated hides built into the vehicles.
We are sharing intelligence across the whole country to identify these cars as possible.
9 people, including 3 South Australians, are now facing a string of offences. Mr Blanche says the drug busts were an example of how police work was evolving.
With the amount of technology that's out there and collected by others and collected by us, I think we can solve crimes very, very quickly, in a matter of minutes rather than years.
And with demand for police amid the COVID pandemic now reduced, Mr Blanche says he wants to focus on core policing business, promising a sea of blue.
I expect that our officers are out there looking professional, engaging with the public with professionalism, respectful engagement.
But with record attrition rates among WA police over recent years, Mr Blanch knows the challenges ahead.
We will invest more in their mental health, and I think that is one of the greatest areas that we can keep our police officers on the track, because people are our greatest asset, the officers are our greatest asset.
And as for a bucket list, the new Commissioner has his eyes on 2 cold cases, Sarah Spears and Gerard Ross.
I hope I can solve those cases in my 5 years. If not, I'm still confident it will get solved over time, because we are only going to get better at our job.
A bold plan for WA's new top cop. Brianna Shepherd.
So congratulations on becoming the new police commissioner there in Western Australia. Right now we'll go to Sydney, where many flights have been delayed.
Sydney is shrouded in thick fog, leading to cancellations and delays at the airport and for the ferry network. Anyone travelling from the domestic airport should check online for updates, with at least half a dozen departing flights now delayed so far. And some Parramatta ferries are also delayed.
That seems something like, January in Delhi is when we have fogs and flight cancellations. Well, right now, the festival goers depart Splendour in the Grass as it wraps up.
Splendour in the Grass has turned to splendour in the mud following heavy rain. Festival goers are now faced with bogged cars and swamp tents as they try to leave. Reporter Rani Hayman is there, joins us live now. Good morning to you. So what's happening there now?
Good morning, Michael. Well, it's happening right now. These guys here are trying to push their bogged car out of the mud. This is what we've been seeing all morning. It's really a muddy, wet situation here, despite the festival goers getting a bit of good weather yesterday and today. The festival itself has been plagued with problems since it began. People were left waiting for hours in queues when they were trying to get into the festival last week. When they did eventually get in, the grounds were wet and they woke up on Friday morning with flooded tents. Also on Saturday night there was issues with transportation, and on Friday the main stage acts were cancelled by the event organisers, who said the wet weather had hampered their plans. But you can see these boys are trying really hard to get this car out. They've managed, which is good news for them, and they're going to be heading home very shortly. But this is a situation that people are dealing with here. It's incredibly difficult, and they're leaning on each other to try and get out of this campground and get home.
You pass on our admiration of their sterling efforts there behind you, Rani. Yeah, it's good to see. Live on national TV. Danielle Kidder was at the festival and she joins us now from Byron. Danielle, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell us about your Splendour in the Grass, or dare I say, in the mud experience.
It was definitely a bit of a roller coaster. At the start on Thursday night, it was looking pretty grim. We didn't think that it was going to happen, but it's actually turned out to be quite a good weekend by the end of Sunday. We kind of feel like we got one day out of the 3-day festival in the end, but we're just happy that there was some positive ending to the whole ordeal.
That was great to see. So have you stayed on the site over the weekend?
Yeah, so what happened was we lined up for 17 hours at the original campsite, slept in the car.
17 hours?
Yeah, so got there at 3 p.m. after driving from 6 a.m. from Sydney, and then got told at 8 a.m. that the land was way too flooded, so then got sent 15 minutes down the road, and I think by 10 a.m. the next morning we set up, finally. On
a scale of 1 to 10, how muddy are your clothes and your tent?
I have never seen this much mud in my whole life. You see all the pictures, but it's hard to comprehend it until you're in it. You're shin deep in mud the whole day.
Oh, right. And you tried to make the best of it, I guess?
Yeah, we have a lot to owe to our gumboots. That was the best purchase that we made for the whole trip.
You pointed to this earlier, Danielle. It was great to see, all the challenges aside, and day one was called off, and as you say, lots and lots of mud. From a distance, to me, it looked like musically such a great festival with a tremendous array of acts and a huge vote of confidence in the music industry that has gone through so much, hasn't it, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think it was just nice to see it come together, at least for the last 2 days, after what the music industry's obviously been through for the last 2 years. And I think, all of us here have been hanging out for this for almost 3 years now. So it was nice that, you know, we could enjoy live music together and have that experience finally.
What was your favourite act?
I loved Duke Dumont and I can't even remember. I was so tired.
That's a pretty...
Hang on. It was before Violent Soho were amazing. Yeah. Glass Animals. Yeah, it was really good. Oh, and Grinspoon.
Grinspoon, they're always great.
Yeah.
And so how busy is your washing machine going to be when you get home, Danielle?
Yeah, I think it's going to be put through a lot of work. It's probably going to be more tired than us by the end of...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that report there from Splendour in the Grass, which turned out to be Splendour in the Mud. But, you know, when you look at the people coming together despite all that and still putting on a good show and no one's complaining, the people are, you know, so resilient, so good to see that camaraderie there. Well, right now, before we go to our Daily India report, let's take a look at the situation which we have been following, which is the rise in interest rate, the inflation, which is you know, out of control at the moment. What sort of effect is it going to have on mortgages, and how many of Australians would be facing mortgage stress?
Last week, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Philip Lowe, put a tentative stake in the ground.
The neutral nominal rate in Australia is at least 2.5%.
The neutral rate is the one that neither expands nor contracts the economy. It's a theoretical idea and no one really knows what it is in advance. And note that the Governor said at least. He also said it's just one reference point and they won't be mechanically increasing interest rates to that level. So to what level will they increase interest rates?
Well, the Commonwealth Bank says 2.6%. NAB now says 2.85% by November. And ANZ and Westpac are both now saying 3.35%, ANZ by November and Westpac by February. And the futures market, where people bet real money on this stuff, says 3.55%. That would get the cash rate back to what it was almost 10 years ago, when the mortgage rate was 6%. But 10 years ago, Australian household debt was $1.6 trillion. Now, it's $2.77 trillion. At a 6% mortgage rate, that's $70 billion extra per year from us to the banks. But aggregate numbers don't tell the real story. There have been two recent efforts to figure out how families will be affected.
On Tuesday, Reserve Bank Deputy Governor Michelle Bullock produced this chart showing repayments increases assuming a 3% rate hike. Now, on the left, the good news. About a third of borrowers will be unaffected because they're already paying at least 3% more than they need to. But on the right, the bad news. 28% of borrowers are going to be hit by repayment increases of at least 40%. Now in February, the Commonwealth Bank published this chart with its half-yearly results presentation. And again, on the left, the good news. 35% of borrowers are at least 2 years ahead on their mortgage. But on the right, the bad news. 36% of borrowers have no buffer at all. They are hand to mouth. So let's be plain, about a third of Australian households with a mortgage, about 2 million families, are going to be in strife this Christmas.
There you go, we're in strife for Christmas and it's already July. So, you know, not much time left for planning or saving up for that Christmas holiday and for the presents and everything. And that Christmas lunch and dinner around the table, getting everyone together, is going to be a bit of a challenge. Well, right now, let's go to our Daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India report that brings you reports, interviews, features, and much more on India and the Indian diaspora. For the first time, an indigenous tribal woman leader, Ms. Draupadi Murmu, has been elected as India's new president.
Backed by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led National Democratic Alliance, Draupadi Murmu scooped up 64.03% of the total vote value. Opposition candidate Yashwant Sinha conceded defeat after 3 rounds of counting with 35.97 votes. The president-elect will take oath on July 25th. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with senior members of his cabinet and BJP chief JP Nadda, visited Murmu to congratulate her. Celebrations broke out across the country. complete with sweets and colourful tribal dances. The Delhi BJP started its celebrations with a roadshow from the party headquarters to Rajpath. Odisha's Rairangpur, the hometown of Murmu, broke out in celebrations as the trend became clear. The NDA's choice of Murmu, former Jharkhand governor and a tribal woman from Odisha, drove a wedge through the opposition and brought on board non-aligned parties such as Naveen Patnaik's Biju Janata Dal and Jagan Mohan Reddy's YSR Congress. The move is also seen as a huge political message to the tribal community.
India has underlined that peace in border areas is key for overall improvement in ties with China.
India on 21st July said it is engaged in talks with China with a focus on path to resolve outstanding issues in eastern Ladakh that entail disengagement, de-escalation and having some degree of stability in the border areas for overall improvement in the ties. External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said India has been looking at this graded process to restore peace and tranquility on the border for progress in bilateral relations. His comments came when asked at a media briefing about China's claim of so-called momentum of recovery in the relations and efforts to project that matters between the two sides have changed following a meeting between the foreign ministers of the two countries in March. Of course, our point has been that if you can resolve the issues, particularly on disengagement, that would help in de-escalation and restoration of peace and tranquility along the LAC in the western sector. That would be the right step towards enabling progress in bilateral relations, he said. Meanwhile, Indian officials have raised concern at the recent satellite imagery of a Chinese utopian village with cars and garden along the Amuchu in contested territory with Bhutan and the spot of border villages all along the LAC, particularly in middle and eastern sector. Officials said these are all parts of Fortress Tibet exercise of Chinese Communist Party. Although India has sensitized Bhutan on China translocating villages along the Amuchu to realign border claims in disputed Tri-Junction area near the Doklam Plateau, the larger claims of Beijing is to consolidate its boundary claims all along the 3,488-kilometer line of actual control with India and 477-kilometer contested border with Thimphu.
India and the UK have signed an agreement for mutual recognition of educational qualifications.
India and UK on 21st July signed an agreement for mutual recognition of educational qualifications, a move likely to benefit students going to Britain for higher education. The two countries also linked a memorandum of understanding on recognition of maritime education qualification and a framework agreement on the healthcare workforce. The MOU on education provides for mutual recognition of educational qualifications and duration of study undertaken by students within duly approved and recognized higher education institutions in the two countries. The pact, however, does not cover professional degrees. On a reciprocal basis, Indian senior secondary school pre-university certificates will be considered suitable for entry into UK higher education institutions, said Indian Commerce Secretary BVR Subramaniam. Similarly, the bachelor's degree, master's degree and doctoral degrees of India and the UK will also be considered equivalent to each other. Apart from encouraging student mobility, the mutual recognition of qualifications would also promote excellence in higher education through cooperation and academic and research exchanges, the Commerce Secretary said. These agreements will facilitate closer alignment on education between India and UK, enhance short-term bilateral mobility and ensure mutual recognition of qualifications.
Officials of the Enforcement Directorate of India quizzed Congress President Sonia Gandhi in case of the party-owned and operated newspaper National Herald.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi on 21st July appeared before the Enforcement Directorate for questioning in a money laundering case linked to the National Herald newspaper amid protests and subsequent detention of party leaders and workers across the country. Gandhi has been summoned again on July 25th. With Congress leaders Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra by her side, Sonia reached the ED office around noon and was questioned for a little over 2 hours about the Associated Journals Limited which initially ran the newspaper, and her role in the day-to-day affairs of Young India Private Limited, a company which later took over AJL, officials said. Sonia and Rahul have a majority stake, 76%, in Young India. An assistant director rank officer of the Federal Anti-Money Laundering Probe Agency, who had interrogated Rahul for 5 days in June, questioned Sonia as well. She was asked a total of 28 questions and was prompt in answering all of them. Keeping in mind the health of the 75-year-old, who recently recovered from COVID-19, the agency allowed Priyanka to accompany her mother inside the ED office.
Even after 2 weeks, 19 Indian labourers are still missing near China border in Arunachal state.
19 construction workers from Assam state have been missing for over 2 weeks in Arunachal Pradesh, close to India-China border. Security forces, including the National Disaster Response Force and the Indian Air Force, have been engaged to search and rescue the labourers. The workers went missing near the India-China border in Arunachal Pradesh, Kurung Kume district. The whereabouts of the 19 workers remain unknown despite a search operation being launched last week. An NDRF team has been dispatched, but the local administration has sought help of the IAF, who have deployed helicopters to find those missing. The 19 missing, all migrant labourers from Assam, were engaged in the road construction projects for the Border Roads Organisation.
A 25-kilometre Kanwar Yatra for raising the issue of gender inequality will off on July 26th.
A 25-kilometre Kanwar Yatra on foot will be taken out from Har Ki Pauri in the holy city of Haridwar on July 26th with a message of fighting gender inequality. The Yatra will start from Har Ki Pauri and conclude with a Jalabhishek at the ancient Veerbhadra temple in Rishikesh, Uttarakhand's Women Empowerment Minister Rekha Arya said on 21st July. Arya said that she will herself take part in the special Kanwar Yatra, which will cover a distance of 25 kilometers and carry the message of fighting gender inequality and promoting Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Anganwadi volunteers and students will also take part in the Yatra, which will be kicked off by Panchdarshanam Chuna Akhada Chief Patron Harigiriji Maharaj. Different Akhada heads and Yoga Guru Ramdev will also be present when the Yatra kicks off on July 26th.
India plans to run special Bharat Gaurav trains to visit Janakpur in Nepal.
The Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation, a public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Railways, has announced a second run of Bharat Gaurav train, an initiative by the Union government to promote domestic tourism. These trains have been launched under the Dekho Apna Desh scheme to showcase India's rich cultural heritage and magnificent historical places to the people of India. Like the first tour, the train will again go to Nepal from India and connect to Janakpur in the neighbouring country. Starting from Ayodhya, the train will cover pilgrimage and heritage sites across India, including Sitamarhi, Buxar, Varanasi, Prayag, Chitrakoot, Nasik, Hampi, Rameshwaram, Kanchipuram and Bhadrachalam. For ensuring additional comfort for elderly passengers, the duration of Ramayana Yatra tour has been revised from 18 days to 20 days in its next schedule. The price for the 20-day tour will start from just under $1,000 according to IRCTC. The train has also been fitted with an infotainment system for entertainment of the passengers as well as for public announcements. Clean toilets and enhanced security features including CCTV cameras and security guards for each coach have also been provided to the tourists.
Bollywood star Ranbir Kapoor's Shamshera was released on 4,350 screens on 22nd July, the highest count post-pandemic.
Ranbir Kapoor's
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for in today's segment. But right now, let's take a look at some of the functions and events taking place. Urdu Forum, together with the Sangeet Premi Club, offers a grand gala musical variety show. And you can win a free ticket to the event just by messaging Australian Indian Radio and mentioning this ad. And of course, that time is of the essence. Tickets are limited. Please call us now or send us a message on our Facebook page to win free tickets to the Urdu Forum and Sangeet Premi Club's Grand Gala Musical Night. Act now. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to act now because quite a few tickets have already gone. So, if you would like those tickets, we've still got few available. All you need to do is send us a message via our Facebook page and you will get the free tickets. So, as we mentioned before, there's only few left. So, time to act is now. Well, until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. It's wonderful to have your company on this Monday, the 25th day of July. And, well, it's gone up another degree, 14 degrees and sunny right here in Brisbane. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us.